It's great that e-bikes there's good awareness. Everyone sees shared scooters, everyone sees e-bikes. We need to, as an industry, somewhat transition into more education now that everyone knows about them. All right, it's not like it was never present before, but let's turn up the knob on education. And we try to educate our consumers as well. It's like, hey, if you put BMX handlebars on it, you need to make sure that there is, sufficient. We say this to our dealers as well, sufficient cable length, right? So that you can actually turn it, and you're not going to have an unintended consequence from that, right? Beyond that, modifying electrical systems, we're like, no. Like, that's our attitude, of course, right? And there's companies and some OEMs, manufacturers here, that have a very strict policy against no modifications, and I think they do it, for a combination. You're out of warranty if you modify your electric systems with us, right? And that actually matters, and our consumers and definitely our dealers care about that, right? So that is one way. There's other reasons why people don't want modifications, just for marketing control, right? As well, right? Selling accessories and things, right? But I guess that is a key kind of line, that I think is an important line to emphasize. Modifying electrical systems, you really need to know what you're doing. And I'm not saying that that should never happen, but there should be education and there should be methods to kind of verify those implementations as well. And there's very well-respected companies that do that sort of work now out there as well. So yeah.
And as a lawyer, I will say that everything they're saying here brings joy to my heart, that you are talking about educating consumers and acknowledging that these aftermarket modifications are going to happen. So are you giving them the appropriate information about how to continue to use the product safely? And it's really encouraging that the industry is doing that.
Do you see more people being injured by modified bikes over regular e-bikes?
That's a good question. I don't know that there are any statistics that necessarily say that. I think the bigger concern is, are they messing with the electrical system or the battery? And then that's where we run into issues like battery fires, and that prompts regulatory issues like what we see in New York, and that creates headaches for manufacturers.
Well, some of the battery problems, I used to have a lot of different bikes at the warehouse that I was doing reviews on. We would have a table full of chargers with no name on them, and they all have the same connector. So one of the things that I like that Aventon does, or Aventon, and I don't know if you guys do this, your name is on the charger, and that's so important. Just put a sticker on it or something.
And to compound on that, on their chargers, they are actually talking to the BMS, right? So that's why it's so crucial to use the OE charger on all products, right? Because there's special safeguards put into that, so that we don't have any kind of bigger issues. So.
Just to add a little bit to that, Underwriter Laboratory is your friend when it comes to chargers and battery and form factor. And New York is going to make sure it's going to happen also, right? So they're not going to let you sell a battery without being UL, right, at all. Zip. I mean, the laws coming in. And we wholly discourage, people are asking, look, can I double my range with adding a battery? Go, no, absolutely not. Do not touch it. Our BMS is completely connected to this particular battery, right? So, almost forbidden.
You've spent all the time and energy and expertise into designing something that works, and then somebody thinks they're going to come in and...
Well, more than that, we bought a company to do this. We're vertically integrated with our battery packs, right? So we buy the standard cells and we build our own battery packs. Right? Come on over to our stand and I'll show you 14 pounds, 8 ounces of pure battery pack that we made ourselves. It's really important that you get that right.
And UL testing tests the entire system, right? I mean, there's 2271 to test the battery, but then the full system tests everything. But people will modify it, right, as well, and especially if you're bigger guys, right, then pit books will come out. So unless you build in some form of proprietary circuitry to prevent, it from being easily copied, right, it will happen, right, So again, it somewhat gets to the education sort of type topic as well, right, what are good battery charging practices, right, and it's not just the battery. So of course it's the connections in for the charger as well. So again, we just need as an industry to turn the knob up, and we are towards this whole education program.
I think that the answer is just buy another battery. We made it removable. Put them on the back rack. That's it.
All right. Well, I think we're going to see that URL certification demand spread nationwide. I'm pretty sure that that's coming. What do you guys do to educate your consumers as far as safety? Like, what do you do from the time that they buy it? I mean, where does that education come in?
So I think the standard stuff is like what comes with the bike, right? Making publications and user manuals very, very easy to get to is extremely important. On top of that, we're really focusing this year at Aventon is teaching riding etiquette, right? Like, you know, when you should be riding on a sidewalk, if or not, right? What is required in different states for different classifications of bikes. You know, how to fit a helmet properly, what footwear to wear when you're riding. All that kind of comes from post-purchase marketing and in all of our channels as much as we can, because that's what's going to really carry our kind of industry or our product beyond kind of like this boom of accessibility right now over the past 3 years, is having consumers use the product responsibly, and that comes from safety, really, not just with the product, charging, and all those things are very important, but making sure that we don't make other pedestrians and other motorists on the road upset at us with our cool little toys.
So we put a touch screen into our bike.
Okay.
It helps with not having to pull out your app all the time. Does 90% of what our app does, for example. Very easily discoverable. And we also, I guess, other steps that we take are, we obviously take what I refer to as Tinglish, translate in English, and make sure it's written for the American market, okay? It happens with everybody. I mean, you know, it's a different culture in China. As good as they are, we go and improve it. We have a lot of videos too. I mean, assembly videos are very important. And what I try to tell people is, there's so much of this bike that comes factory tuned. You don't have to worry about it, okay, number one. But the only things you're gonna have to really change are this. Everything else, as in like, you're gonna tighten the brakes, right? So everything else, go to a bike store, right? And it's standard componentry. So that would be the kind of the standard thing, because there's a lot of tribal knowledge and parental knowledge and even school knowledge. Schools used to teach bikes at, you know, turning and all that other stuff in curriculum. Now it's not so much, I heard. I checked recently. But bikes have been around for 205 years, so there's a lot of knowledge already there. And we're just trying to, you know, make sure they understand the new stuff.
Yeah, I agree. We like the video approach as well, and I'll just say somewhat the obvious. You got to try to make it fun as well. I mean, there's a ton of utility in these things, right? But people are riding because they're fun, right? And so every thought, you know, and using people finally know how to use QR codes, right? You know, and so now you can scan a QR code, right, and get a very quick, effective, short attention span holding video for 60 seconds, 2 minutes, all right, you know, that's like, let's get you set up and riding safely, all right, you know, and tell them the best practices, right, you know, but it does, I mean, all this interrelates, everything we've been talking about here, from the mods sort of type topic as well. We designed our bike to have certain affordances as well in it that make it really easy to get rolling, right? No distractions involved, and no, there isn't somebody riding double on the back of the jackrabbit, right, you know, and that was designed on purpose as well. We're not coming out with a rear seat because it changes the ride dynamics drastically, right? I'm sure it's not that you can't do that. You just need to educate people that the ride dynamics change massively if you have a surfboard or a second person on the back of your bike as well. So you just have to educate. Again, word of the day.
I think what I'm hearing too is a lot of variety of types of education mechanisms. So it's the on product labels, it's the screen that's on the bike, not just the app, it's videos on the website. I mean, you got to keep in mind that consumers learn information in a lot of different ways, so providing it in all those different mediums important. And it's important to make sure you're catering not just to the sophisticated, tech-savvy people who might have been the initial purchasers of e-bikes. I mean, you can buy these now at Costco, so you got to keep in mind that you are educating consumers who are not just experienced cyclists or tech folks, but people like your mom who are picking it up at Costco and need to be able to know how to use this safely, even if they haven't ridden a bike in 25 years.
And redundant methods for that as well. I mean, because very much we sell jackrabbits in like boat stores, right, and RV shops, and like there's even a shoe store, I think, that sells jackrabbits. And so these are not people who necessarily have bike pumps even as well. So a lot of institutional knowledge for bikes being around for a couple hundred years, right? But a lot of these people are like, yeah, I haven't ridden a bike in 20 years, whatever, you know, but I've seen these things and I want to ride them. So yeah, QR codes are good, but you also have to have labeling on the bike. You have to have very short, quick start guides, you know, all the old school and all the new school methods.
The amount of times I still have to remind people to put on a helmet, it's still crazy. You know, we're used to buckling into the car, but if you don't have a helmet and you want to go someplace, it's not your first stop with the bike. So, you know, we're reading and we make sure that all of our Marcom material has, you know, helmeted people always, all the time. My marketing manager said, why don't you wear one on the stage? And I said, but it is really important. I mean, just, you know, a simple helmet, right? I mean, you'd think, right, it would be there already.
We should be wearing helmets right now.
Yeah.
That would have been smart.
All the gear, all the time, right? As a motorcycle rider, also, that's a common mantra. Is making sure that you have all the gear all the time, so you have no idea what can happen.
I heard a great quote, and that was in Seattle. There's a Saturday night ride with all these enthusiasts, right? And their motto is "Dress for the slide and not the ride."
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Well, we're getting close on our time. Anybody have anything else to add?
One other thing related to the importance of, you know, emphasizing helmet safety and instructions and so forth is making sure that your marketing materials are consistent with whatever you're telling consumers in terms of instructions on how to safely use the product. I mean, if you are Jackrabbit and you are saying only one rider, do you have a Mother's Day ad that shows mom wearing a baby and not wearing a helmet? I mean, no, he obviously doesn't because he cares about safety. But that's something you want to keep in mind with your product and talk to your marketing team about is, are you keeping a consistent message between what you were trying to sell and what you were telling consumers about how to safely use your product?
I'm just going to add, I'm going to say the education word again, but getting more involvement from local communities and the government even as well, kind of, right, you know, because, you know, I think in California, our governor allocated some funds to the CHP, I think, that is going towards a program that I think is scheduled to have results this fall, for example, and then it's intended for schools, you know, junior highs and high schools, to use that webpage and those resources, right? You know, and if you go by a school in Southern California, we're in San Diego, North County, San Diego, you go by a junior high school, there's like 300 e-bikes outside of it, right? You know, and so it's very reasonable to rely on and encourage more like these sorts of, you know, pretty common sense stuff, but still, it needs to be said, it needs to be prevented, and then it will sink in, it will be adopted. So more of that sort of type funding would be good as well. Not to mention for bike lanes and all these other elements as well.
Driving here last night, there was a big billboard and said, "Mind bicyclists," as I was going 65 miles an hour on the highway.
That's all.
Right? Well, no, it was great use of funds. I mean, it was good. It did, you know, like it will sink in with certain people, right? But I had one question. I asked it last year, and that is, how many people here came on e-mobility to this conference today? Okay.
What about the panels?
I rented a car. I had to. I'm sorry. So same number as last year. One. Oh, you're in addition, right? So I'm dumbfounded, right? When if you have local press or anybody else around here that doesn't come in on a bike, or I know some of the guys that have units outside did come, but I would encourage everybody, go get an e-bike, and it's a superpower for people my age.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much. And thank you guys for being here for our discussion.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Hey guys, thank you for watching. Come back later.